All right, we are on Daf base on a base at the bottom. Very interesting Gemaras today. It's remarkable how much different now. Pesachim we did relatively recently, so it's remarkable how much different the Yerushalmi is than the Bavli. All right, we are on the last line. How do you check two rows in the cellar? Rav Chuna b'shem Rav said kofo can mean gam. You peel it off, meaning you check rows like a gamma. And you have a little picture there in the Korban Eda, which is a chaf, which is like a gamma, right? So Tani bar kapara kofo can mean shnei gamin. You do double gamma. He's not arguing. How so? Well, actually, he is arguing. The Gemara is going to explain. How you do a double gamma? It's the middle of the house. In other words, there's access to the pile on all sides, to the pile of wine barrels. So then, al daiti de Rav Chuna, mavshita chokel. According to Rav Chuna, you just have to do the top and one of the sides, not both sides. Al daiti de bar kapara, mavshita shnei chalokas, to do two sides. Now, the truth is, you could hypothetically one could have conceived the position which is even more machmir and holds to do all four sides, right? The top and all four sides. You just don't get to the middle barrels. But obviously, once you check at least one, maximum two sides, you've already checked enough, and it's chazak on the rest of it that it's okay. I assume that the side you picked to choose is the side which you most likely used when you actually had access to the pile of wine barrels. Okay? Madregos. What if it's made as a step? Well, the highest level has, let's say, 8 barrels. The next level to 9 barrels. The next level 10 barrels. The next level 11 barrels. So you make a gamma, right? You go down the side, right? Madregos. Kopo gamma. Rabbi Yaakov Rabbi Shem Chizkiah said. B'Shem Barbar b'Shem Rabbi Yochanan said, Shura Chitzaina, the outer row. It still says you don't have to check like a gamma. Beto is Beishama. It still says the outer row means the outer row. Chitzaina Shvihiel Yoina. It's the outer one, which is the highest one. Hara as a Pesach, it's opposite the door as you come in. There's a Koran opposite the ceiling. So if you have a large pile of wine barrels, so it's the topmost pile on the outer side. Okay, it's one which is both opposite to the door and opposite the ceiling, the closest proximity to both of those places. Okay, Shalifani Mimena. Now it says the Beisil says you do that one plus the one Lifni Mimena plus one inside of it. Tani Shalamatri Mimena. They wanted to. There's another Bryce. There's a Bryce that says not the Lefanim, but rather one below. Lefanim would mean going across. Lamata would mean going down, right? So which one was it? Have a boy lemeimar. Manda marshal Lefanim lehemera. He says you do the one in. Koshket shalamatim. You still do the one below. In other words, he says Lefanim. It's not just Lefanim. It's also Lamata, because where it's more likely the chametz is going to fall down, not sideways, right? So you have to go sideways, one in. Certainly you should have to go one down, right? Makes him as a kavachomer, right? He who says you have to go one down, so certainly he should hold. So all if need matter, but to go one in is not necessary because chametz falls down, gravity, not sideways. Nishtamish b'chatzi shura. If you use half a row, pshita also shnistamish yeshla. If you used half a row, you have a whole row of barrels. They really didn't have barrels in the old days. I keep saying barrels, but they had jugs of wine. You had a whole row of jugs of wine, right? There's no wooden barrels in Bavel or in Eretz Yisrael. You had a whole row of jugs, and you used, let's say, out of the 10, you used 5. So those 5, you have to check the row behind it and the row below it, because that's based on Shita. But what about the other 5, which you didn't use? You have to check them too, and you have to check behind and below them as well. Because it says in the Mishnah Shura, does the Shura mean regardless of whether you use the entire thing, or we take into account the fact that you only used half of the Shura in the past, course of the past year. So it says the Gemara, does it have I'm sorry, it's in the middle again. By the dot. Let's take over there. Nishtamish b'chatzi shur from Gimel Amud Aleph by the dot, which is about 7 or 8 lines down. Nishtamish chatzi shur b'shita osu nishtamish yeshlo shalifmi menu shalimati menu. The one you use, the 5 you use, that half, you have to check in one and down one. But also shalish lo nishtamish ba. What about the other half of the row? Yeshlo shalifmi menu. You have to check in one and down one on that part of the row. Now, the Gemara is taking it for a Dover Pashat that in that row itself we say lo plug. The shura you got to check, even if you only used half it, you have to check the whole shura. The question is whether you have to go behind the half you didn't check and check the row behind it, or below the half you didn't check and check the row beneath it. And the Gemara doesn't come to resolution. It doesn't answer the question. Okay? Now, this is only true in mecholos, mecholos losh of chalal. It's only where there are cavities between the jugs. So chametz could have fallen in. Ava baputzos, if they're tightly packed together, luya putzos means dark, black, because there's no place to get in there. You just pass your candle over them and check, and that's sufficient. You don't have to move the barrels or the jugs or the casks, because mistorm and nothing fell down. They're so tightly packed together. So it says more, well, if you have to move them at all, it seems that we're afraid that you dropped chametz, that is the chashash. It says more, no. Or Pinchas the Yafo. Right? Pinchas of Yafo said, I never saw a murder before from Yafo. What? First one, right? Pinchas the Yafo said, what? Yeah. Ani Omer, the Shah says, such a Tomei city, and the murder from there. Ani Omer, the Shah says, Sidron, no, I'm not afraid that chametz fell there. I'm afraid that when you put the barrels there, at the beginning of the year, whenever you put the barrels there, that chametz went there. We're not afraid of nefila.
Okay, so really interesting. The Perminator has to say, Yafo, Shane Marco.
Shane Marco, yeah. Okay. It says the Mishnah further. Ein choshim shema gira chulda. We're not afraid that maybe a weasel took stuff from house to house, chametz from house to house, mokum from place to place, because im kain. Now, very important, the Meichal Mayim points out a beautiful, beautiful point, which is going to be critical to the Gemara. Nobody else pointed out. I'm shocked. It says here im kain. The Bible says de im kain. The Mishnah in the Bible says de im kain. Here it says im kain. Now, normally that would be a quibble, right? But he's going to say that's the crux of the shot he gives in the Yerushalmi Gemara here, which we'll see momentarily. Okay, so I'm going to touch it up like you would touch it up according to the Bavli. Okay, I'm going to touch it up like you touch it according to the Bavli, because that's going to be the assumption of the Yerushalmi here too, and then the Yerushalmi is going to reverse itself. It's saying you don't have to be afraid that a weasel takes from place to place, to house or place to place, because in Cain, if you would be chayshish for that, right? There's no end to it. You would always have to be chayshish. Who says even if you check the 2 houses, maybe it's a weasel brought something from outside the city, so there'd be no end to wherever you have to be chayshish. His wife put socks on the cat. To pick it up in the feet.
Right.
So she didn't learn Mishnayos.
No, but I guess I don't know the husband.
He didn't learn Mishnayos.
I'm saying the husband brought this Mishnah as a raya against him.
A raya against him.
I think
his wife didn't listen.
they went to the Rav, and the Rav said this is your wife. Be quiet.
Okay.
Socks.
I'm Rabbi Yaina. Rabbi Yaina said, "Hachin tzurcha masnisin." There's something wrong in this Mishnah. The Mishnah should have written otherwise. Should have wrote me'ir le'ir michotza l'chotza mimakum l'makum l'bayis l'bayis. The opposite order. We went from the close proximity to the further proximity. The Mishnah should have written from the further proximity to the close proximity. And this is what the Mishnah should have written. Im choyshishat me'ir le'ir. If you're going to be choyshish from city to city, al choyshish michotza l'chotza. So it should be chayshish from courtyard to courtyard. Chayshishat michotza l'chotzer, chayshishat mimakol l'makol. It should be suspicious that made from place to place. Michoshesh mimokum lemokum, achoshesh mibayis lebayis. Should be choshesh from house to house. In other words, you should always have suspicion. Who knows? Maybe he came from another city, right? If you're choshesh from another city, you're supposed to be choshesh. It came from another house. How do you know how do you know where the end of the chashoshos is? In other words, even if you know, well, nobody came from another city, right? But maybe somebody came from another house nearby. So he's saying the order should be reversed. If you're afraid that, how should I put it? But let me say it outside. That'll be clear. Mechamayim says, Rabbi Yochanan is bothered. The Mishnah makes no sense. The Mishnah is saying, we're not choishish. You can't be choishish milkum because you can't ain't davar sof. So he says, who says? I say a very simple distinction. We're choishish from milkum karov. That the weasel came from nearby. I'm not choishish from milkum rochok. I'm not choishish that a weasel came from New York to Chicago, right? So if we suspect house to house. That means if your house is not checked, my house is not checked. Why is that? Because the weasel might have come. If somebody's house in New York is not checked, then I'm not choishish because the weasel's not going to come from there. What is the Gemara? What is the Mishnah saying? Oh, you can't let over soif. There is a soif. We'll make a reasonable soif. The soif is that I'm choishish for the next door house, and I'm not choishish for the house which is half a mile away, or not choishish for the house which is 10 miles away. But certainly there is a soif. The Mishnah said makes no sense. Let's read that again. The Mishnah really should have said like this: come down. Say, yearly, I'm definitely not choishish. I'm so far away. Mechotzel chotzer, even bigger chiddush, I'm not choishish. It's closer. You might think you are. Mimakom l'makom, even that I'm not choishish. Even though it's much closer. Mibayis l'bayis, I'm not choishish. Why? Because even if I'm choishish, in choishish I'm year year, I'm choishish mechotzel l'chotzer. If you're going to be choishish from city to city, then you have to be choishish for chotzer to chotzer. If choishish am chotzer chotzer, choishish am makom l'makom. If choishish from chotzer to chotzer, I'm choishish to be choishish from place to place. If choishish am makom l'makom, I'm choishish me bayis to bayis. Meaning that I'm not, just like I'm not choishish for that which is. I'm still not sure how to read these lines. I understand it outside, but I'm not sure how to read it inside. Let me just check the Meicham Ayman. The logic is good. No, we're not. It says Mishnah ain't choshim shem agura gira chuldem mibayis l'bayis. We're not choshish from house to house. I understand how he reads that. I understand the logic very well. He's that logic I like. Let's try it again. Let's see if we can make it work. This is the way it should have read. Me'ir le'ir. From city to city. That's Pasha not choshish. Not only that, you're not choshish mi chotzer l'chotzer, which is closer. Not only that, mi mokom l'mokom, you're not choshish. Not only that, mi bayis l'bayis, you're not even choshish from house to house. But now I understand how to read it. I got it. Came to me. Because the way our Mishnah is written, the Mishnah says, "You can't eat a dover soif." Says Rabbi Yochanan, "What's eat a dover soif?" Im choishishat meir leir choishish michotzer l'chotzer. It's the Mishnah says, "No, yeah, come on, you can't be choishish from house to house. You're choishish from house to house. You have to be choishish from city to city." Says Rabbi Yochanan, "Give me a break." Just because I'm if I'm choishish from city to choishish I'm year choishish where am I again? Choishish I'm year choishish michotzer l'chotzer. If you're choishish from city to city, then of course you choishish michotzer l'chotzer, right? Im choishish shot me chotzer l'chotzer, choishish shot me mokel l'mokel. If you're going to be choishish from chotzer to chotzer, you're certainly choishish from place to place within the same chotzer. In choishish shot me mokel l'mokel, if you're choishish from place to place within the same chotzer, ad choishish me bayis l'bayis, you're certainly choishish from house to house. Right? That's all true. Granted, if I'm choishish for further, I must be choishish for closer. But our Mishnah is saying the opposite. Our Mishnah is saying, I can't be choishish for further, for close, because then I have to be choishish for far. Why? Who says? Maybe you only choishish for close, not for far. So Rabbi Yosef said, Afilu kamas nisa asyu. No, we could even learn our Mishnah. And here's where the Mechamai throws in the critical difference between the Bavli and the Yerushalmi. It says, the Mishnah is not saying. The problem Rabbi Yonah has is that the Mishnah is using. He understands the Mishnah is using the logic of. I'm going to try saying it in Latin, even though I'll probably say it wrong. A reductio ab absurdum, of taking something to the absurd and proving that it cannot be true. Because if you're choishish me bias to bias, you should be choishish even me early ear. That's how we understood the Mishnah, because that's what the word imkain means. Because the imkain means if you're going to be choishish for this, you have to be choishish for that. And that Rabbi Yonah said that's absurd. You can't say that. Maybe you are choishish me bias to bias, but not choishish me early ear, because you're choishish at a close distance, you're not choishish from a far distance. Yes. Of course, if you're choishish from city to city, then of course you're choishish me chotzer l'chotzer. But who says it works the other way? Just because choishish me bias to bias, I have to come to the absurd of being choishish from city to city? Of course not. So what's the Mishnah's raya? So it said, along comes Rabbi Yosef says it's not a raya. It's an extrapolation. So Mishnah didn't mean to use a debating tactic and say ikein ein la dover soif. That wasn't the point of the Mishnah. To say that ein la dover soif as a raya that not choishish bias l'bayis. No, the Mishnah is going to say. Let's look inside. Mishnah say ein choshim shema gora chuldi bias l'bayis mokum mokum im kain, and therefore, not because and if, because if therefore, rather and therefore, it's learning from too. It came mechotzer l'chotzer u'me'ir le'ir ein la dover sof. Because if you're going to be choishish from bias to bias, right? That means that you have to be. If you're not choishish me bias to bias, you're certainly not choishish for the other things. Not that. I see. I'm not getting across. Not that. This is the argument. I can't be choishish from house to house, because if that's the case, I have to be choishish from city to city. That makes no sense. Like Rabbi Yonah said correctly, be choishish from house to house, and don't be choishish from city to city. That's Rabbi Yonah's question. Rabbi Yosef's answer is that's not the way to read the Mishnah. Mishnah is saying I can't be choishish from house to house, because if that was the case, I'd have to be choishish from city to city. Rather, Mishnah is saying since I am not choishish from house to house, therefore I'm not choishish from city to city. Imkain means therefore. Since I'm not choishish from house to house, therefore I'm not choishish from city to city. Because if I was choishish from house to house, so that then I could say, well, house to house, yes. Even chotzer to chotzer, yes. Ear to ear, no, not that far, right? But now that I have me bias to bias, I'm not choishish. I'm certainly not choishish from city to city, right? That's what the Mishnah is trying to say. Again, one more time. If it would have said the imkain, like the Bavli said, it's a raya. Say, if you're choishish house to house, if that's the case, you'd have to be choishish even from city to city. And ain't no dover say, be choishish no matter what. And that Rabbi Yonah said, not true. You will draw a very basic distinction between close proximity and far proximity. Well, because Rabbi Yonah says that's not the way to understand the Mishnah. It's not the imkain that if so, rather, but therefore. The Mishnah is saying it's not a bitmiya, it's b'nichusa. It's not a chad. It's not a rhetorical question. It's a logical extrapolation. Since you're not choishish from house to house, that is why you're not choishish from chotzer to chotzer. That is not why you're not choishish from city to city. I did the best I can.
It's not a building block of logic.
Right.
That's the
In case it's not a building block of logic.
Imkain is.
Right, it's a logical kind. If it is a building block in logic, then the logic is faulty. But if it's just telling you, therefore learn this, then the logic, then everything is fine. Okay, it says more further. Let me just read. Start beginning. Rabbi Yosef again. You can, if so, and therefore, right? From city to city and from place to from chutz to chutz, city to city, there's no end. You're not choishish anywhere. Why? If you're not choishish from house to house, well, koshken, you certainly are not choishish makom l'makom. If you're not concerned place to place, well, koshken, you certainly are not kavachomer. You're certainly not choishish mechutz l'chutz. If mechutz l'chutz you're not choishish, you're not concerned with chutz l'chutz. Well, koshken, you certainly are not choishish me'ir le'ir. Why is it necessary to say this svara? Even me bites the bites not choishish, because the choilin and choiso leave the chemson ka'achas. Can all Jews check their chametz simultaneously throughout the world? That would be what would be. And besides, forget about all the goyim. But in order to be able to say that, in order to be able to then do bir chametz, everybody would have to do their chametz simultaneously. So I wouldn't be able to be choishish that your chulda would bring chametz from your house to mine after I did b'dika and you did not, and that's impossible. So therefore, by definition, must be we're not choishish for gereiras chulda, for the weasel dragging chametz from place to place. Okay? Says the Mishnah further. Rabbi Omer Baikim or Arba Sar. Rabbi says you check the 14th day by night. By Arba Sar B'Shachris, the 14th day in the morning. Shasabiyah, the time you eradicate the chametz. Chacham Amrim Im Lo Badak or Arba Sar. If you didn't check the 14th night, you check on the 14th day in the morning. If you didn't check the 14th day in the morning, you to check within Yontif. Lo Badak B'Soch HaMoed. If you didn't check within Yontif, Yivdok Lachma, you check after Yontif. Mashu Mashayr, that which you leave over at the Bdika, Yichena Betzina, you leave it in private, Kidei Shelo Yetzor Bdika Achrav, in order that you shouldn't need to check subsequently, who knows what will happen to it. I'm Rabbi Yechon. Rabbi Yechon said, now you got to bear in mind that the Yerushalmi is very religious in this point, that Bdika's Chametz is the Raisa. We already saw at the beginning, in the Masechta, that holds the Shmartim Etzayim Hazeh, right, that you have to be showing the entire day of Yudalit, that's why I have to B'dika from Yudalit by night. We're going to for that pasuk. Here too, Rabbi Yehuda says, it says 3 times in Torah, says, sure, so those teach you 3 B'dikas. Doesn't say a 4th time, eradicate sore from your houses, Ba'aseyu, that's a mitzvah saseh. We're only looking at the labs and determining the amount of b'dikas. V'oksi doesn't say shivas yom esor lo yimotzei v'ateichem. It says also besides lo yireh lo yimotzei, right? So why don't we count lo yimotzei and make a 4th b'dika corresponding to the lo yimotzei? Rabbi Yosef said became shezeh tzarech lezeh. Since this with the by yimotzei are not redundant. Each one says a chiddush which the other one doesn't say. Therefore, each one is necessary. So it's not redundant, so therefore it's not considered to be a 4th time, but rather something separate. Why is it not redundant? So this we all know already. They're as if they're all the same. It would have said, would have said, that if somebody gave you a pikadon, it's not. It's if somebody gave you an option for safekeeping, it's not really yours. That you don't transgress anything. That's why it says Talmud loymar loy matzei v'atechem shouldn't even be found in your house. Loy matzei v'atechem which have said loy matzei. Ha'isiyarma would have said yichei lo bayis yeh aser, that if it's in your house, even if you designate it for its own corner, you put it in a closet and rented it in the closet, that should be also because it's yimatzei. Talmud loymar loy relcha. That's what it says. It has to be that it's not seen by you. So how do we reconcile to psukim? If he gave it to you for safeguarding, and although the Yerushalmi doesn't write it, it's obvious, and you're responsible for it. Awesome. Yichelo bayis. If you're not responsible for it because you designate for it a place in your house, a specific isolated place, then it's okay, mutter. Okay? Mechalfish Shitas Rabbi Yehuda. Now there's a contradiction in Rabbi Yehuda. Now the Gersa here is a bit messed up. The Meich HaMayim says there's a whole brisa missing here from the Yerushalmi. But it's very simple to say, without even putting in the brisa, the question is obvious. Rabbi Yehuda is very machmir, requires 3 bedikos. Rabbanan say if you missed one, you do the other. If you missed the second one, you do the third one. We see Rabbi Yehuda is very machmir. Yeah, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't. Rabbi Yehuda says it sounds from Rabbi Yehuda, and Meich HaMayim brings a brisa like this explicitly. But it sounds from Rabbi Yehuda himself in the Mishnah. If you missed all 3 bedikos, okay, that's it. You missed it. You don't do a bedika during Yontif. If you missed those 3, that's it. It's for Falin. That's a very big kula. Rabbi Yehuda is super machmir, requires 3 bedikas, but if you miss those 3, you don't do bedikas within Yontif. Why not? It's a very strange shita.
What happens if you find it?
So burn it. You have to be Mechol Moyos, you don't make a bedika. Why not? That's the Gemara's question. Mechavish Shitas Rabbi Yehuda. The time Rabbi Yehuda Mer Boiki and Ransa Orlar Bosar Babosar Shal Shasabir. Chachom Mim Lo Yiblobo Dak Orlar Bosar Yidok Yutal. If you didn't check during those first time, check the second time. In any event, Tzorich Livdok Sholosh Peomim. Right? You have to check those 3 times and no more. And here's where the Meich HaMayim throws in a whole bunch of other stuff. What about during the Yontif? How come Rabbi doesn't require you to during the Yontif? Mayim b'shosh lo higiyas man biyuro. This is I'm not throwing in anything. It's not necessary. I already told you outside. Mayim b'shosh lo higiyas man biyuro. If it before this man biyur, Rabbi is so meticulous. He says to check 3 times. He's so obsessive. During Yontif, when the Chiyav is there, is in a Kavachomer, you have to check. So if you miss those 3, what, you don't have to check anymore? How can that possibly be? Where did you see Bittul in Yerushalmi? Yerushalmi holds Bidikas Doraisa. I don't think the Yerushalmi holds a Bittul. We may have found that otherwise, but I don't think so. My hunch is that there's no. Steht nicht.
Even if you don't have to look for it.
Right. That's what you could have said, but it's not here. Okay. Says the Gemara. So I don't know if we come across Bittul, then I would have to answer differently. But so far we haven't seen it, and my hunch is that we're not. Okay? That was a Lam D'Shir Hamtzoah of the Bafel. Alright, says the Gemara. Again, Mayim B'Shosh Lo Yigiyaz Ma Biur At Omer Tzarech Livdo Shosh Pamim. So you have to check 3 times. Shosh Yigiyaz Ma Biur Lo Koshket. So the Gemara, no. Lo Tzurcha Da Ella. No. Avade. Even Rabbi Yehuda agrees to check within the time. And the way the Mashbiach puts it, when Rabbi Yehuda said you check b'shas biur, the 3rd time, what he meant is any time of the shas biur, meaning from the morning for the next 7 days. Even he's masking to that. He's masking that you have to check during the shas biur from the morning to the next 7 days. The machlok is really on the bdika after Chometz, after Pesach. Lo tzurcha da, the machlokas is not by this, but only in lo bara v'socham yivdok b'so b'achar boy. Rabban knows you check after you have to do because the Chometz Shravel of a Pesach. But Rabbi Yehuda doesn't know the way because Rabbi Yehuda holds the b'dikas of the Raisa, and they were set by the Torah for 3 before, or if you miss those 3, then 1 during Yontif. B'dika la'achar v'chometz achar Pesach. To the Rabbanan, there's not necessarily to do b'dika for the Rabbanan. He's super machman the Raisas. But the Rabbanas, maybe he doesn't require b'dika at all, right? Now, Mashru Mishaya, whatever you leave over, you put it somewhere secret, so you have to check for it again. Ketsurosa, what does he do? Kofel of Kli, he puts on it a vessel. Kofel of Kli, Velomatzo, what do you put on a vessel, and then later on came back and he didn't find it, it was gone. And I say somebody came and took it. Okay, so I don't have to choshesh that it's somewhere else in the house. I assume somebody came and took it and ate it. Klov kafel havakli. Well, if you didn't put a vessel over it, the low mitzvah, they didn't find it. Oh, so by tzarich b'dika. Check it again. What about Oshar Kobatim Lo Yutzrichim B'dika? What about the other houses in the vicinity? In that case, where there's known chametz, do we assume that maybe a weasel came in and dragged it from house to house? So before we said we're not choshesh for weasels. What about the other house? What about where there is known chametz in the vicinity? Before that, there wasn't known chametz, but here there was known chametz, and now it's gone. So we have to check the other houses. The Shmina Min Adah. Let's check. Let's learn out from here. You lost the kazayis from a dead body, babayis in the house. Biksho, you look for it, you can't find it at Babayis store. When you find it later on, habayis tummy l'mafreya. The house is tummy retroactively. Now, hada yafa minahiv, hayi yafa minado. That case learns from our case, and our case learns from that case. Hada yafa minahiv. We learn our case. Our case learns of that case. Ebaid hui niach. The same parameters apply to loss as to placing in a place. Meaning our case is talking about where you place something somewhere and then it's gone. That case is talking about where you lost something to begin with. The same parameters apply. I'm sorry, it's the other case around. That case learns out from our case that it makes a difference if you lost it or if you put it down. Because in our case also, you don't have to check if you if you put a keli on it. That case learns from our case. No, the other way around. Wrong. Let's go back a line. That case. I'm getting confused. Our case is where you left it. That case where you lost it. So that case, even though it says you lost it, the same thing is true if you left it, like our case. And our case learns from that case, even though it says Alpha Minadah, it's Yerushalmi, so it's the opposite. When it says Alpha Minadah, literally that means our case learns from that case. But really it's the opposite. That case learns from our case. That case learns from our case. That there it's talking about where you lost it. Our case is talking about where you left it. It's the same thing. Leaving and losing are the same. Our case learns from that case. The kazayis min hameis, you only look at that house. Doesn't say you go check in another house. So too the chametz, you only check in that house. You don't have to check in any other house. Okay? That's what we learn from there. Ucha Rabbi Yehuda, and like the following story named Rabbi Yehuda, afilu osa baiso tu yatzar b'dika. Even that house doesn't require b'dika. Why? Nishmei me'adah. We learn that from here. Am Rabbi Yehuda ma'aser b'shiv chosur shemitz ma'aser put down the Babli too. Ma'aser b'shiv chosur shemitz kecha berimo. It's a ma'aser with a shivcha of a certain strong guy in Rimon. She threw her miscarried fetus into a bore. Remember, this is the first idiot Kohen we had in Mesechus Pesachim. The Kohen came and looked over the bore. Was a nefel or not, whether she's tamei 2 months later or not. And of course, he's a Kohen, he's not supposed to do that. Came were retire him. Why? Shederach chulda barlos, weasels and hyenas are glios gorin also. They take it away. They don't leave it there. So mistama, there was no fetus there when he looked into the board. So here too, we don't have to check the house. Mistama, if the chametz is missing, or the meat of the dead flesh is missing, the chulda took it away. So don't be choshesh even in that house and check. Rabbono, you have to check that house. When Rabbi Yehuda that the chulda barlos takes away, you don't have to check that house. Says more, no. That's true by flesh, by fetus. Rotza hiachar basar. Chuldas run after meat and they take it with them. Ve'ena rotza achar pas, but it doesn't take bread back to its lair. Bread is not so geshmak. So therefore, if you lost the dead flesh in the house and there's a chulda, so then you don't have to check the house because Mistam the chulda took it back to its lair. No, we're not choshesh mi bayis l'bayis. That we know. We're not choshesh bayis l'bayis. Okay, we are choshesh, not even choshesh for this house. But by bread, maybe it left it there. For afilu tema, and truth is I can answer you differently. Afilu tema ratzi achar basar v'achar. Even if she says she runs after meat and runs after bread. Basar goreres v'chelos. The meat it drags back to eat in its lair. Pas goreres v'manachas. But the bread, it crumbs up. It takes back some and leaves some. Bread by its very nature scatters. So therefore, by bread, you have to be chayshish, even if there was a chulda, that there's still bread left now, so you have to do bedika over again. Rabbanan de Kesarim b'shem Rabbi Avo said, Rabbanan de Kesarim named Rabbi Avo said, Ein chashim shem agira chulda. In the same house, you had bread, right? And you checked, and you found the bread, found crumbs in one spot. And you have to be afraid that maybe the weasel took it elsewhere in the house and checked the whole house. So Rabbanan, no, we're not afraid. We found bread. You assume that's the bread you lost, you don't have to check further. But Rabbi Yehuda, according to the first teretz, according to the second teretz, that it does drag the bread away, that it's ratzer achar pas. So even if you find bread in one part of the house, you have to be choshesh and check the entire house, because maybe this is part of the bread, but then it dragged the bread elsewhere. So therefore, you have to continue to check to find if it took bread anywhere else in the house. Okay, I assume it's like a case where you know there's a chulda. If you don't know there's a chulda, who's going to be choshesh? There's a weasel in the house, right? So infrequent. Where you know there's a weasel, and you saw you drag part of it. We know there's a weasel. Even though you found part of the bread, then we have machlokas. You have to continue looking throughout the house for the rest of the bread or not. What's bothering? What?
Why does it that there is a weasel in the house? Why can't you just tell them there is a weasel?
I don't know that for a fact. I'm making it up. But he happens to say the Shari Torah says it's wrong, but I don't rely on him. What? Okay, I take it back. Maybe Stam weasels were prevalent. Alright. Nowadays, Zecha wouldn't be choshesh for weasels. But I just assumed there was a prevalence for weasels. Yeah. By the way, the Korban has a different shot in the Gemara, but it's good enough. I like my pshat better. I think so, yeah, I'm pretty sure about that. Could be I'm wrong, obviously. Maybe a chulda is a mole and a barless is a weasel.
I thought chulda was a weasel. I'm not really sure what barless is.
Hyenas are big, right? Yeah, so it's probably not a hyena. Maybe it's like a tomcat of some sort. I don't remember. I think it might be like a tomcat or something. Bobcat, whatever, something like that. Okay. You can eat all the fifth hour. The sarvin meaning from 10 to 11 o'clock. The sarvin in the morning on an equinox day, the standard time. The sarvin you burn at the beginning of the 11 o'clock hour. Eat the entire fourth hour, means from 9 to 10 o'clock. The toling kol chamesh, leave it around from the 10 to 11 o'clock. The sarvin you burn in the beginning of the 6th hour, begin burning at 11 o'clock. Rameir holds Isur Chametz in afternoon, and their Pesach is the Rabbanan. Rabbi Omer Mishesh Shosul Mala Medivrei Torah. It's the Raisa. Now, the Bible also brings down the Raisa, but it learns it from the contingency on Korban Pesach. But here we learn from a different person. Rabbi, my time is Rameir. What's the logic? Rabbi Meir holds it till the Rabbanan. It says Ach b'Yom Rishon. It says, that's the 15th day, not the 14th day. So maybe it's only once night falls. Yeah, but there's an ach, which is a ribui. What does ach include? You thought, well, the Gemara's going to ask. Also, take on an hour. Right? So it's an hour. It's very strange. Chametz comes also midaraisa an hour before Shkia on Erev Pesach. Okay, it's our Meir Shita. So it's this Rabban. My time with Rabbi Yehuda. What's the large Rabbi Yehuda? Ach b'yom harishon zeh Yudalet. First day is Yudalet. Yochel koyim kulo is the entire day. Tamalomar ach. Ach is a chiluk. They bring down here an atbash in cipher language. Ach is chetz, which means divided in half, right? So okay, it's chalok is hayom. Chetzio lechometz, chetzio lematzah. It's half chometz and half matzah. The Chavish does Rameir. Moshe brings out the case of Masechta Beitza by Ach asher yasel chol nefesh levada yasel lachem. They're talking about ochel nefesh on yontif. So Rameir learns Ach is a miut. Not all ochel nefesh can you do. Only very precise ones. What they are, we'll learn when you get them Masechta Beitza. But he learns Ach is a miut, and we know that Ach in Verak in miuti name, right? So Ach lemayit. So how do we reconcile? You're right. No, here it's also miut. Miato she'eno b'chometz. It's the ach is a miut on the 14th day. That part of it is not in chometz. Okay, it's depriving the 14th day a part of its quality of chometz and making it ois chometz. Look, I'm just telling you what it says. What do you want from me? I'm not making this up. So that's what he says. I know you need several earth movers in order to fit it into the pasuk. Granted, but that's how he learns the pasuk. What can I tell you? Ach rabos. I'm sorry. Miato she'enu b'chametz. It's precluded from chametz. Ramei Omer lo sochav of chametz. Says do not eat chametz on the Korban Pesach. Al chilos. That's an issur on eating it. Rabbi Yehuda Omer lo sochav of chametz. It's not issur on eating it. Oh, if it's issur on eating it, so when does it only become asur? When you eat the Korban Pesach? When you eat the Korban Pesach? Pesach night. So there's no issur of chametz before this man achilas Pesach. We're American consistent, then it holds you down in the afternoon, there's no issur of chametz, right? Rabbi Yehuda Omer, lo sochalu of do not eat on it chametz, not just on the achila. Allah means ala siyaso. On the making of the Korban Pesach is ready in issur of chametz. Granted, for the afternoon. It begins in the afternoon. That's the main thrust. But the thing is, it's not Rabbi Yehuda's only issur. Rabbi Yehuda islay asay v'lo sasay achila. So there's an asay lo sasay not to eat chametz. Asay v'asay abiyur asay v'asay lo sasay not to have chametz. Now the places I read here, just to read Baz, we haven't had him for a while, but the Baz says this is the source of the Rambam. The Rambam holds you transgress by Yerah by Motzei Erev Pesach afternoon. The Rambam says we never found such a thing. Even though chametz is also Erev Pesach afternoon because of the Korban Pesach, not because by Yerah by Motzei, but the Baz says that's what the Yerushalmi is saying, and the Rambam got from the Yerushalmi that by Yerah by Motzei even apply in Erev Pesach. Because Rabbi Yehuda is tacking all the Yisurim of chametz on Pesach to the time which he asks the Raisa on Erev Pesach. Okay? So it's important to Yerushalmi. Says again, Rabbi Yehuda Isra Yaseh v'lo Yaseh Achlos Yaseh v'lo Yaseh Abiro. And they all of them begin on Erev Pesach. Aseh Achilo, so what's the Yaseh not to eat to eat chametz? Shivasirin tochal matzos. It says 7 days to eat matzos. V'lo chametz, which implies not chametz. Kol lo saseh, and even though it's a lav, not to eat chametz, it's a lo saseh shubah mikoach haseh. It's a lo saseh which is right mitzvah saseh. It's a mitzvah saseh. Lo saseh. So what's the actual lo saseh? Lo tochal of chametz. Do not eat upon the chametz. That's Pesach afternoon. Aseh al be Erev Pesach afternoon. Aseh al be the mitzvah say to get rid of the chametz. Tashbisu sor, eradicate the unleavened. Lo saseh biro lav shivas yomim lo sor leimotzei vatechem. Do not find any source, so that's a lav. Okay, so it's an asay lav and asay on the achila, asay lav on the bir. For Rameir Goymer, so it says when I got a kasha there, based on everything you just told me. Rameir Omer b'shesho sulmal midivreim. From 6 hours and above is derabana. Okay. Shviz asur mishum geder. The 7th hour, meaning the afternoon, is already the Rabbanan. Together. Shishis, the 6th hour, from 11 to 12 in the morning, Loma. Why is that also? Mishum Getter? Because of a Getter, because of the Rabbanan? Yesh Getter, Legetter, it's a Gzera, Legzera. Right? So it's a Getter to a Getter. What kind of thing is that? I'll tell you why. Because people can't tell time properly. Shishis Mischalebes V'Shvius. Since people can't tell, so between the 11 o'clock hour and the 12 o'clock hour, so therefore they made a little plug and they answered it. Fine. Well, let's ask now Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds from the 5th hour and beyond is the Rabbanan. Okay. Shishis Ashur Mishum Geder. The 11 o'clock hour is also Rabbanan. But Chamishis Lama. But why did you answer it in the 10 o'clock hour? You say now let's eat during the 10 o'clock hour, right? Why? Mishum Geder, because of the Gzera. The Yesh Geder Legeder is a Gzera Legzera. Ella, so what are you going to say? Maybe you'll say Shechamishis Mischalefes B'Shvius. You'll say people get mixed up between the 10 o'clock hour and the 12 o'clock hour when it already is the rice, according to Rabbi Yehuda. That's what you'll say. People get mixed up. If that's the case, Mechav Shitasi Rabbi Yehuda. They have a contradiction Rabbi Yehuda. Talmud Omer, by Hilchos Eidos, where Eidim come to testify. If they're off between, if two Eidim are off, one Eid said it happened in the 10 o'clock hour, and the other Eid said it happened in the 12 o'clock hour, we throw them out of court. Talmud Omer, Ein Chamishis Mitzcheh B'Shvius, the 5th and 7th hour don't get mixed up. Yet here he says they do get mixed up, so that's why he asks us eating chametz during the 10 o'clock hour. It's a contradiction. Rabbi Yisrael said, Tamana Dover Muscle Basin. There, who's going to check out? Basin's going to check out. Basin's reason him. They'll make sure to figure out whether they're lying or whether they made a honest mistake. So there, we give less leeway. We tell Basin, be darish v'chayker, check it out. But here, Hadavar Masul Lenoshi. Here, the whole telling time is given over to the women. Vanoshi Matzilo saying the women, they move slowly. Whether that's a praise or a condemnation, Lamaisa, they're not paying attention to the clock. So therefore, here we have to be more stringent. Rabbi Yisrael Bun Tamon, Rabbi Yisrael says another answer. It says Tamon Tchilas Chamishish Soshvis. There, where is based in? Throw somebody out of court with the two Eidim out of court. One guy says it happened at 10:01, Tchilas Chamishis. The other guy says it happened at 12:59, Sof Shvius. That's too far apart. But here, what are we afraid of? Bramach, we're afraid Sof Chamishis. We're after the 10 o'clock hour because people can get mixed up between 10:59 and 12:01. That's what we're afraid of. And that people can get mixed up because that's not that much of a difference, right? So, Sof Chamishis Tchila Shvius. The Tani came, we learned this in Brisa. Shebitchilas Chamesh Chama B'Mizrach. At the 10 o'clock, 10:01, the sun is still in the east. The Shov Shah Chama L'Marav. At 11 o'clock, 10:59, the sun is already a shtickle in the west. And the sun only truly goes down to the west of Sov Sheva at the end of the 7th hour, meaning at 12:59. So therefore, it's very easy to make a mistake between 10:59 and 12:01 because the sun is in the general overhead region, even already beginning to be somewhat westerly. So therefore, we made a Gzera. Once 10:59 is the problem, we asked that the whole 5th hour beginning from 10 o'clock. Okay? Nevertheless, even though Rav Meir holds chametz at Erev Pesach afternoon is the Rabbanan, Rav Amar Divrei Meir Mekadosh b'chametz v'sheish shos l'malon lo asa klum. In Mekadosh with chametz, you give its kedushin on Erev Pesach afternoon after chatzos. It's not a valid kedushin. Why it's not a valid kedushin? Hefker based on hefker. It took away from you your value in it. It's the Rabbanan. You don't own anything. You have no value in it. It's not shaveh pruta. You can't be mekadosh it. Rav Huna said, Yos, it's a good, I like that svara. Shekeach, because I bring you a similar svara. Elu chitim kurtapnios by midbar. Tough grain which goes in the desert. They can't become chametz d'oraisa. They're too tough. They don't split properly and crack properly to expand. Nevertheless, the chametz d'rabbanan. The chametz d'rabbanan. If they get moist, the chametz d'rabbanan. Nevertheless, dima tavan inun bar the klum. Are they worth? Are they worth anything? Yontif meaning can you be mekadesh nisha with them on Pesach? You cannot. You go and make a cut. Why? Because even though it's a d'rabbanan, again, hefker based in hefker. So whole shine in the place. I think the Rambam Paskin that in mekadesh with chite kurdenaisa, same thing. Erev Pesach, it's also not mekudeshes. Of course, big question because if you're to rabbanan, but now the Rambam Paskin the rice, it's not a kasher. Rambam Paskin Erev Pesach knows the rice, so chite kurdenaisa he paskins not just on yotav are no good, but even on Erev yotav. Because Erev Yotav, according to him, he holds that Krabutas the Raisa. Okay. Chad Barnash, this is my situation brought down Bavli. Chad Barnash, if you discard the pista, certain person left a basket full of bread. Gabi Rabbi Chia Ruba by Rabbi Chia the Great. Rabbi Yisrael, the mafki, the person who left it was Yochanan Chikukahaba. Yochanan Chikukahaba. As a Shol Rabbi. So Rabbi Chia asked Rabbi, what should I do? Amrei Timacha Pi Beis and sell them in court. In other words, so the value is properly estimated, but only at the last possible moment, Shasa Biur. At the time he can no longer use it anymore, at the time when the Biur comes around. Till then, hold it, maybe he'll come back and get it. At that point, sell it in order to salvage his value in it. Similarly, Chabanash Afkid Karba de Kutcha. A person left a bucket of kutach, which was a sour milk and bread dish. Gabri Chibarash. Asa Shol Rav came and asked Rav. So based on at the time of the beer.
Setting the price?
Yeah. Or at least they're mashgiach on the price. They're supervising. Rabbi Mar Chamishis Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi says he's selling the 5th hour like Rabbi Yehuda. Meaning the 10 o'clock hour. Rabbi Yossi. Yos Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah. Is Rabbi Yirmiyah saying good? Klum Amruli Gaba and Lamochron. Is there any reason why they said to touch them to sell them? It's not because of returning the lost item, meaning he's going to lose his value in it. This is because of returning the lost value. So Chamishis Krabir Tavis Klum. In the 5th hour, it's worthless already, right? Because nobody's going to buy it. Not because it's not Asr Ba'Noah yet. It's only Asr Ba'Achila. But who's going to buy it? It's too, nobody can eat anymore. It has no value. So therefore you sell before the 5th hour. Not during the 5th hour, but before the 5th hour. Chevrai Armin, I don't know if we have time to finish this, but it's fascinating Gemara now to the end of the mission. Let's try our best. Chevrai Armin Chamishis Rabbi Yehuda Ikdishal Mukdash. The Chaveim said, in the 5th hour, according to Rabbi Yehuda, if you're Makdish it, it's valid Hektish. Hektish is allowed to own Chametz. Valid Hektish. I saw Truma, he made a Truma, ain't no Truma. It's not valid Truma. Why? Hikdisho Mukdash Hektish Tami. You're Makdish it, goes to Bedek Abayis. Like anything else to make Hektish. I saw Truma, ain't no Truma. It's not valid Truma. Shlo need no Truma Achil Vavak. Because Truma, it's not a valid, it's not saying which you're Makne. It's something which you have to give a coin to eat. You can't give the coin to eat Truma now, so forget it. It's not valid Truma. That's what the Chevraya said. Amlen Rabbi Yossi said, no, the exact opposite. Lo mistabra da el chilufin. The exact opposite. Ikdisho ain't a mukdash. If you're makdish it, it's not hektish. So Truma, I raised a Truma, you made a Truma, it's valid Truma. How so? Ikdisho ain't a mukdash. Shein poidim as hakochim lachil l'klovim. What's hektish going to do with it now? It's asur b'achila. It's asur what can hektish do with it? If they want to make money off of it, they have to sell it to dogs. They have to sell to give it to dogs. But you can't sell hektish to give it to dogs. So therefore, hektish has no value in this. So if hektish has no value in it, so therefore it's not bedek habayis. Kachim mizbeach it could become, right? Because kachim mizbeach doesn't have to do with monetary value. But bedek habayis is defined as something from which based the hektish can realize the profit. If they can't realize the profit because it can't be sold, forget it. That's not hektish, bedek habayis. Now the shaila is which the Achronim deal with here. So let the hektish keep it till after Pesach and sell it after Pesach. That's a good question. There's no good answer for it. But right now, hektish couldn't do with anything for the next 7 days. However, truma, truma, I raised the truma Torah. It's valid truma. Shiur Torah means the valid. Dvar Torah, I raised the truma Torah. Dvar Torah. Atu shagazartu of sreifa. It's the right, so it's fine truma, right? The Kohen could eat it. We are not allowed to eat it. So what? What we need is that you should be masaking your crops. Your crops are metukan. No problem. So the whole impediment is to eat it, tough on the Kohen. But that's his, this is Rabbanan, not my problem.